This and after that is Victor Fuhrman from New York.
My name is Chris Lacy, Chris-Lacey. My address is 656 Oak Hill Road, Binghamton, New York, 13901. This is not Texas, Colorado, Wyoming, or Louisiana. This is Pennsylvania, and we need to remember that the geology and topography here are different. The Shields compressor station will undoubtedly often have free-flowing natural gas because of the pressure of the Marcellus gas and the pipelines running up and down the hills. When the compressors do have to be turned on, the compressors will run on natural gas and have fans run by electricity. Any concern for emissions should be minimal with the use of natural gas and electricity. My understanding is that most of the natural gas delivered to the Shields compressor station will generally reflect pipeline quality gas except for moisture content. Thus, the DEP proposed thresholds for emissions should be achievable by this compressor station. On the DEP website, requests for permits by companies are common. Why is this permit receiving so much attention? It is being used as a scare tactic by people who want to stop the development of shale energy in Pennsylvania. This reminds me of the very provocative Hollywood movie, Erin Brockovich. Anyone who saw that movie would be surprised to read a December 2010 Associated Press article. That article reported that the California Cancer Registry has completed 3 studies on Hinckley, California. The studies found that cancer rates remained unremarkable from 1988 to 2008. Scare tactics can be very convincing if you ignore the facts. DEP, you are setting thresholds on air emissions that will protect the health and welfare of the general public and the environment. Continue to use science and facts to establish a responsible air quality plan for the Shields compressor station. In response to Mr. Schmerling's question, wind turbines cause heart disease, vertigo, tinnitus, sleep deprivation, and migraines. The turbines kill birds and bats. The bats die from internal hemorrhaging due to the sudden drop in air pressure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. After Mr. Fuhrman is Paul Whitaker from Greene, New York.
My name is Vic Fuhrman, F-U-R-M-A-N. I'm from Shenango Forks, New York. I live about 1.5 miles away from a Millennium compressor station. I talked with a man whose house is within 100 feet of it, and he says he cannot hear it, maybe because his house is well insulated, but he cannot hear it, smell it, or taste it. Not that I think he would go out and kiss a compressor station. However, I'd like to talk a little bit about Mr. Dillman from Texas, who came up here and spread his information about how bad it was in Dish, Texas with the compressor stations. What he did was remarkable to me. He complained about his children having nosebleeds and getting sick in his home because of compressor stations, which are a lot down there. And then he sold his house to another family. Why didn't he condemn that house? I don't understand that. I guess somebody had to be the sucker. But now also, in the same time frame, he said the population is going down. The 2010 census has actually added 18 new families to Dish, Texas. So it must really be a bad area to live in if it's actually growing. I commend Laser Pipeline for going to natural gas instead of diesel. I think the DEP here in Pennsylvania should protect the air quality of its citizens to the best of its ability, and I believe they're doing that. It would be nice to see more people following Laser Pipeline's rule of thumb. From what I see, you are being a good neighbor. I see it in Windsor, New York. I don't live too far from there either. I'm right in the middle of Old State Road where the Millennium Pipeline is, and Windsor. And I think that the main focus is this hearing, and a lot of the things you heard today are on old science, old technology. A lot of the numbers you got were from diesel, not from natural gas compressors. They were from diesel, and I think a diesel compressor, a diesel engine does put out a lot of bad air, and it's just something that should be outlawed, period, for compressor stations, especially since we have nice dry gas here in Pennsylvania and New York, where we don't need to, we can actually burn it right out of the well and not have to treat it. And it's nice to have a product that we can send overseas too. Even though we're only sending 1% of the gas overseas, it's nice to finally be working against reducing our deficit instead of increasing it. Basically, that's pretty much all I got to say, except for there's a lot of talk about natural gas and compressor stations and how pollutant they are. But Eric Schneiderman, Attorney General for New York State, filed a lawsuit last January against Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because of a coal-fired power plant they have there. Somebody mentioned 280 tons of volatiles coming out of the compressor station a year. Well, that one coal plant has 400 and, I think it was 490, I don't have my notes, I wasn't gonna bring this up, for tons a year. 179 pounds of that is mercury. If you know anything about mercury, 2 tablespoons of mercury into a body of water as big as the Oneida Lake will make that water unsafe to drink for 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Paul Whitaker from Green, New York. Is Mr. Whitaker here?
Yes, but I'm not going to speak. Just here to listen.
Okay. Thank you. Bonnie Whitaker. Okay. You know, Charlene Adams from Springville, Pennsylvania. Charlene here?
Hi, my name is Charlene Adams, SHIRLEENADAMS, and I live at 102 Hunsinger Road, Springville. I am here because I'm just very concerned. I live very short distance from where this compressor station is to be set up, and I worry that with the pollution and the noise and the extra traffic. I've lived at this address for like 18 years, and I bought the house to live out in the country where it's quiet with clean water and clean air. During the initial drilling of the well at the Shields property, we put up with a lot of noise where we had to close our windows at night to be able to sleep, and a lot of extra dust from all the trucks going up and down the road, so we couldn't even open our windows in the summertime or spend very much time outside. So now I'm very nervous and worried with this compression station and all the testimony, how noisy they are, that I'll have to live with my windows closed year-round and not be able to spend much time outside. As it is, I live every day worrying that my water's going to be polluted as our neighbors in Dimmock Township, and I sure don't think it's fair that I have to live every day worrying about the air that I breathe. And I just wanted you to meet me and understand my worry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have 2 more speakers, Mr. Ralph Janelle from Springville, PA, and Meryl Solar from New Milford, Pennsylvania. Mr. Janelle here? Meryl Solar?
Yes. Am I? Oh, I thought Mr. Brunel.
Is he here? Go ahead.
Okay, mic check. No, I'm just kidding. This is a little high. I don't know.
The metal right there. Here we go.
Is that working?
Thank you. My name is Meryl Solar. I live in New Milford Township. And I'm a little nervous because this is my first time here, and I almost decided not to speak here today. But this was really a little too important for me. And I don't represent one side or the other in this debate, but I wanted to talk about the one piece of this that I think there shouldn't be any sides. There shouldn't be any debate, and that's really the future of the quality of our life here in Pennsylvania. If I sound a little nervous and my voice is shaking, it's because I am. I grew up in Philadelphia, and I remember when I was little and we would take rides to Atlantic City and we would pass over stink bomb land with all the factories and all the smoke that went on for years. So we're not talking about new territory here. We're not really walking a new road that we can't regulate until after things happen. We really need to be learning from the past. But I moved here 10 years ago to the Endless Mountains because I wanted to spend the rest of my life in the fresh mountain air with clean spring water, green rolling hills, and wonderful forests with all sorts of thriving wildlife. Quiet nights with sounds of peepers in the woods and in the ponds. To me, this was paradise. Something that I'm afraid we might be taking for granted here, that it will always just be here. But after all, doesn't our Pennsylvania Constitution assure us of the right to clean air, pure water, and the preservation of our natural resources? That the Commonwealth should provide this for all of its people? I've been paying a lot of attention over the past 5 years, ever since being approached by a landman. And while some of my neighbors may not see my point of view, I can fully appreciate the potential benefits promised by this industry. But after seeing what has actually already occurred across Pennsylvania, and learning so much more about the bigger picture of what this will ultimately mean for Pennsylvanians, I am frustrated, I am scared, and I am very concerned by what's in store for our future here if we don't start demanding better accountability, more responsibility, and liability for the damages that this industry is leaving in its wake. The very fact that we're here today to only address concerns regarding one single compressor station in Dimmock, which is planned to be placed a little too close for comfort, is indicative, I think, of the much larger problem. We're just playing the game of whack-a-mole here. The truth is, there will be over 100 compressor stations in Susquehanna County alone, 100 or more, to support the massive amount of wells planned. And I've heard that number is somewhere between 6,500 and 7,000 for the number of well pads to be in this county. And even on the low side, that's covering a huge landmass of this county. I had some slides to demonstrate a lot of what I had to say, but if you want to see them in the back room, I'll be happy to be there. But with this in mind, maybe you can begin to consider the actual number of compressor stations that will be built across our communities. I've heard something like 1 compressor engine for every 46 wells. Not sure if that's accurate, but in any case, it will be over 100 just for this county alone. The truth is that this industry likes playing this game of whack-a-mole. For them, it's a perfect way to avoid real accountability. They submit a new application, and they share only what they have to, and we only get to address our concerns one isolated occurrence at a time. And when you only see these things one by one, you don't really get to consider the cumulative effects of what's ultimately in store and the larger impacts this will have on our air and quality of life. As a result, critical across-the-board regulations that might provide better safety overall are never even considered or addressed. This is not a case where if one is good, 100 are better. Quite the
30
contrary.
seconds, ma'am.
30 seconds? I thought I had 5 minutes. Okay. Well, now I'm going to skip to this part. Sorry about that. The culture of our governing body in Pennsylvania, many of whom have received significant financial reward for either their endorsement of this industry or their silence, would suggest that the unimpeded development of oil and gas resources by private industry is more important than the health of its citizens. But I'd like to suggest that this is simply not acceptable. We are not at war, this is not about patriotism, and we cannot be considered collateral damage.
Thank you. So we do have 2 more people to speak. It's Mr. Philip DePoe, I believe, from Montrose. Pardon me? Okay, and we have Felicia, I can't remember her last name, Kren from Kingsley, Pennsylvania. We'll get to them. Okay, ma'am, your name, ma'am?
Susan Reese. I sent the letter and signed up.
What's your last name?
Reese, B-R-E-E-S-E.
There's time to speak. There's no reason. In the PA bulletin, it says that people can sign up the night of the hearing, so there's no reason Susan shouldn't be able to speak. This is ridiculous. Okay? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, you can speak. Yeah, you can speak. You can
Okay.
speak.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify, because in your confirmation email, you said that when the list of speakers was finished, other people in the audience would be allowed to
Yeah,
speak.
you
Is
can
that
speak.
still?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Just state your name and spell it.
Susan Breese, Breese. You don't want my address or anything?
Please.
6683 State Route 92, Kingsley, PA,
Right.
18826. Okay, I live in Lenox Township, about 25 miles downwind of the proposed compressor station. I'm here to express my concern about the environmental and health impacts on the residents surrounding the proposed station. I'm hoping that this hearing will result in much stricter regulations and standards than is in place now. And I would hope for thorough, regular inspections to keep the stations up to the standards. I know I will be facing the same situation soon, since I'm surrounded by many gas wells. The lack of faith I hold for help from the DEP stems from the fact that my well was contaminated in 2008, along with several of my neighbors. The response we got from the DEP was that they were not able to determine that the drilling of the gas well contributed to the degradation of our water supply. So I'm here tonight to ask you to step up and take into consideration the factual data of the degradation of our air supply when you are compromising and appeasing the gas industry. Just because they say something is so does not make it true. Please demand that they use the greenest and latest technology and hold them to the highest standard of practices. As an avid backyard birder, my gravest concern is that the wildlife has disappeared since all the gas pads have moved in. Between the red squirrels, gray squirrels, flying squirrels, and all the songbirds, I had faithfully gone through 50 pounds of sunflower seed every week for 15 years. Since August of this year, I may put out 5 pounds a month. The gas wells all moved in the past year. I'm afraid it's like the canary in the coal mine. If the wildlife know enough to leave, what will be the long-term effects on the people and domestic animals that stay? I'll end with a very simple and profound quote from an old Sioux Indian chief hanging on my wall. Grandchildren, remember, they are sacred. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Could you say, spell your name, please?
Me? My name is Josh Fox, Joshfox. I'm a resident of Milanville, Pennsylvania, John Davis Road, 18443. I came here tonight. I'm a filmmaker, made the film Gasland. I came here tonight to support the residents who are, I came here tonight, this is my
The New Yorkers are going
official
back on the bus
entourage,
stop.
they're going to escort me back to Wayne County. I came here tonight to support the residents who are opposed to this compressor station. I have a lot of experience with gas fields across the United States of America. A lot of the time we focus on water contamination, and we focus on some of the more spectacular catastrophes that happen with water from gas drilling. But one of the most insidious and difficult things to propose for a residential area is a compressor station. The reason why is because they're really loud and they're really stinky. And they emit volatile organic compounds 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, into people's homes, which causes health problems, many of which you've heard talked about tonight. It is my opinion that if you can't make a compressor station that's 100% silent and doesn't emit toxic vapors into the community, you shouldn't build a compressor station, period. Because what essentially you're doing is putting something at the heart of a community which will devalue it, which will degrade it, and which will cause health problems for people. And when you go back and look at all these things, and the reason why Pennsylvania has been ravaging itself under the auspices of DEP and both Ed Rendell and Tom Corbett. This false argument that we need natural gas, that we need fossil fuels, when we can do all of this in a much better and cleaner way if we had a sane energy policy that didn't sell out our citizens and our communities to interests that are really just concerned with profit. If I asked you, these two people on the panel, or Michael Crancer, or Tom Corbett, if you would like to live next to a compressor station that was emitting volatile organic compounds and exhaust and fumes 24 hours a day into your home and causing the kind of noise that you heard the residents here complaining about, I'm sure they would say no. I'm sure you would say no. I'm sure any sane, irrational person would say, well, why do I have to sacrifice my quality of life when we have alternatives for energy that are better? The answer is really simple. It's right in front of your face. It's the money. And we can't sell out our citizenship so that foreign interests, and they are foreign interests, can go ahead and abuse people who live in the United States of America. So, in every case, I have seen these compressors wreak havoc on people, and they are a permanent installation that stay there for as long as the gas is coming through that pipeline. It is a permanent devaluation of that space. So again, unless you can create one that's completely silent and doesn't emit toxic vapors, you shouldn't be building it. In fact, you should be starting to reverse the operation that calls these compressors into being. Because a compressor is just a symptom of this disease that is going throughout this state of hydraulic fracturing. We should not be heading down this road. The last thing I'll say here is that it's extremely important to take a look and reevaluate gas's profile in terms of emissions from fracking. To not do so would be strictly ideological. The argument has been for a very, very long time that gas is better than coal and we should move towards gas because it will get us off of this higher emissions. But we know now, because of compressor stations and their unregulated emission, and because the frac ponds off gas, and because there's flaring that's happening, venting that's happening for the first several days that the wells are drilled, we know that frac gas is not better than coal. And when you're talking about tying us in through compressors and pipelines and all this infrastructure to 30, 50 years worth of gas, you're talking about accelerating climate change past a point where we can actually control it. So take a look at this as a bigger issue. We're talking about one compressor station, but it should not be allowed to go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I thank you all for showing up.